if you can explain what is the crack? Hey, the crack.
How can I have the crack? What's the crack?
What is the crack? You are the crack.
Hey, welcome back to Audio Crack. This is episode 14. And now we have on the most recurring guest on the podcast, Donnie Does, 3-time reoccurring guest. Donnie, thank you for coming on.
No problem.
Always a pleasure. Today we got a pretty packed show. We're going to be talking about bioterrorism, chemical terrorism, basically really fucked up ways humanity has tried to kill other humans across history. Because this one gets interesting. The history of bioweapons goes back way longer than you'd think.
Yes, it does.
I mean, it's not just like a futuristic, like chemical war agents, germs, weaponized viruses. Like, this is a lot simpler than you think. And it was actually pretty creative. I mean, brutal and, not the most ethical things to do, but people have been coming up with some pretty creative ways to kill each other for centuries. And we're gonna get into that today. First thing I want to talk to Donnie about as a former resident of China. How do you feel about China landing on the dark side of the moon?
I actually just figured out that happened from you like 5 minutes before we started the pod. So congrats to China. I won't really be impressed until another country puts a man on the moon.
True. I mean, yeah. We treated the moon right. We approached the front side of the moon.
Yes.
We said, hey, we're bringing people. We landed. We addressed. We asked to come down. China just put one in the backside of the moon. Like, didn't, just landed, didn't even bring people, and kind of just, took them from the back. That's not how you approach a planet, or not even a planet, like one of your own Earth's moons.
I am happy they did it, though, because there are a lot of theories like, there's a secret alien base on the dark side of the moon. There's like crazy ravines and stuff where there's microorganisms or some sort of species hiding. So hopefully we can put that to bed or confirm it.
I mean, who knows what they'll find? I mean, they may all just be in Arizona.
Yeah.
They may have just never left Earth. There is a weird...
China's not going to be doing a psyop in Arizona. They'd be doing that in like the Gobi Desert.
There's a very interesting bit about how there's a place in northern Arizona by Flagstaff, I think it is. And that's where they practiced a lot of the moon rovers, a lot of the landings. And that's where they, for some reason, that area of the country, they thought that's what the moon would look like. And then in retrospect, that's exactly what the moon looked like. People are wondering. There's a ridge in the background that kind of looks like something in the background of the moon landing.
Ooh.
Who knows? That gets people. I mean, I like to think America landed on the moon.
I like to think that too. I am a moon believer, but I am a little confused that after we did it, why did it seemed every other country just gave up. And we're like, America did it. We don't have to do it now. Like, it was a big race between US and Russia to get to the moon. So after we won, was Russia like, all right, it's over. Like, there's no point in us putting men on the moon?
I mean, I guess when you're the Soviet Union and it would take millions and millions of dollars to do it, and you have other issues in your country, being second wouldn't really be that redeeming.
It wouldn't be that redeeming. And the US didn't really gain a lot of scientific knowledge from walking on the moon. I don't know. I mean, we gained a lot of knowledge trying to create the technology to land on the moon, but I don't think the moon rocks we brought back added a ton of value.
I mean, the one Danish prime minister that Neil Armstrong gave a rock to, they recently analyzed the rock, and it's petrified wood.
Okay. What? Wait, wait, so that should be a huge deal if Neil Armstrong thought it was a moon rock.
So a moon rock given to the Dutch, to the Danes, to the Dutch prime minister by Apollo 11 astronauts in 1969 has turned out to be fake. Curators at Amsterdam's Rijksmuseum, where the rock has attracted tens of thousands of visitors each year, discovered that the lunar rock, valued at 300,000 pounds, was in fact petrified wood. So, I mean,
I think we had some real moon rocks, but you can't be just handing them out all willy nilly to the Dutch. So they were just like, let's hand them some petrified wood. They're not going to know the difference.
I mean, you probably get so many people asking you for shit when you come back from the moon, and you can only bring back so much shit from the moon that like you're probably throwing out fake rocks. I mean, how many pieces of Plymouth Rock are actually Plymouth Rock that are being sold across the country?
I mean, I don't even know if they really sell pieces of Plymouth Rock. I mean, that would be a really lame gift. They do sell pieces of the Berlin Wall, and I'm sure a lot of those are fake.
That's just pieces of concrete with
like
with spray paint on it, and it's like that's Berlin Wall.
Yeah, and then what do they sell? I mean, Plymouth Rock. Like some teenagers tried to blow it up by like maybe 10 or 20 years ago. So now there's just a huge like crack. They had to cement the rock back together.
Who tried to blow up the rock?
I forget if it was like actual kind of like protesters or if it was just dumbass kids being like, it'd be kind of funny if we just like blew up Plymouth Rock.
And what did they try to blow it up with?
Because it's a pretty
bomb has exploded at Plymouth Rock, 1976.
Yes.
So a bomb exploded at the Plymouth Rock Shrine late last night. There was no other damage besides powder burns. The blast caused no damage.
Okay.
The explosion dug a 7-inch hole deep in the sand, which the rock rests. So there's no indication that any group or person had claimed responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, what if this was like they were trying to cause terrorism and they're just like, let's blow up the rock?
It would make sense these days just because, you know, there's been a lot of like pushback against things like Columbus Day. So I could see there also being a lot of pushback against celebrating the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims were not as bad as Columbus in terms of like how many, but they were, I mean, yeah, the Pilgrims fought a war against the Native Americans. King Philip's War. Look it up. One of the lesser known wars in U.S. history. And a crazy fact, I think it was the war that was fought where the United States now that killed the largest portion of the population. Because at that point, there weren't a ton of European settlers in New England. And in this war, like maybe like at least 50% of them were killed or 2/3.
Yeah. So 2,000 Puritan casualties in King Philip's war. So 2,000, how many people were there? Probably the town had about 16,000 men of military age. So that's a huge amount of the population. Wasn't there, there's a U.S. military stipulation that you can't kill more than 10% of the population or there will be like irreparable generational damage to a country.
Yeah, I mean, that may have happened to France in World War I.
Yeah.
Maybe Russia, because like Russia lost so many people in World War II, but maybe their population is just like so big they could bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they really were able to bounce back, but
I mean, they still talk about World War II as if it was like yesterday.
Yeah.
And like that is kind of why Russia acts how it acts.
Yes.
Like I was literally, you know, with some Russian boxers and they still talk about World War II.
Damn.
And this was like, and they had just beaten up Canelo.
They would get so pissed to be at a frat party in the US and then like all the bros are wearing back-to-back World War champ shirts. They would get so mad.
But they really do get pissed about that. They're like,
oh yeah,
it was Cinco de Mayo, and it was when Dmitry Bivol and his team were like taking shots, like celebrating Victory Europe Day more than they were about Bivol beating Canelo.
Oh shit.
And so like I think was it May 6th or May 7th was I'm blanking on VE Day, which is kind of unpatriotic, but it's around there.
That's a huge what if, like if Hitler had just not invaded Russia. I guess, I mean, it was always his plan. He wrote about it in Mein Kampf. Like he said exactly what he was going to do. He's like, we're going to take land from the Russians, kill all the Slavs there, and then the Germans will have more living room. But he obviously had to neutralize like France and the UK first before he could do it. But Hitler and Stalin did have a pact, And if he just kept on bombing the UK for maybe one more year, a lot of people think they would have sued for peace.
Peace.
Yeah.
That's wild that you can sue for peace.
Sue for peace. Yes.
Like what? Like what court can you sue for peace? Actually, that'd be a good question.
Oh, yes. We were talking about King Philip's War. That war. So, you know, the story of Thanksgiving, that was when the Pilgrims and the Native Americans, they got together, had like a big feast, and they kind of became close friends. But then King Philip's War was fought between the children of those exact same Pilgrims and the children of those exact same Native Americans. So it was like one generation later, they had started to be like, get really pissed at each other, probably because they're just kept on being more and more settlers from Europe and taking more and more land. But that's when the relations soured. So it's like, it's the dark side of Thanksgiving. They don't tell you about that. One generation later, it all went to shit.
Yeah, the kumbaya at the Thanksgiving. I mean, you could never see it going down differently. I mean,
I do think like
the way we remember it.
Thanksgiving did happen. Like there was a time when like they were getting along really well with the natives, and I'm sure they had a big harvest feast.
So a lot of the conflict increased when the Wampanoags and settlers, due to the continual intrusion of settlers' livestock onto Wampanoag farm and food stores, with few colonists taking more than half-hearted steps to do anything, even though of the complaints. So,
I mean, if they brought pigs, like pigs probably just fucking ran train on like all the forests, all the land.
Oh, absolutely. Pigs are the worst.
I know.
And they were non-native. I mean, there's still like, I think it was Columbus dropped off 50 pigs in Hispaniola in Florida. And now we just have a huge hog problem. I'm going to I got to hit up Sydney Wells, because me and Pat are supposed to go down there and shoot hogs.
That would be awesome.
That would be so sick.
I would do that.
That's the only big game that like everyone's down with you just killing.
Yeah.
No matter what.
I do like pigs are really smart. So it's a lot of people like, you would never eat a dog, but why do you eat so much pig? But then pigs are also savages. Like they will eat a human, like no qualms if you just like throw it into their pit.
I mean, didn't they say that a bunch of pigs could eat a whole human body within 24 hours?
Maybe you may have got that from Hannibal.
Vietnam.
No, because like in the movie Hannibal, he throws the bodies to the pigs because they do the best job of getting rid of the body.
Yeah, so pigs cannot chew the larger bones of the human body. So they can break them down to smaller bits, but there will be So you can't get rid of a body with pigs. They will leave DNA evidence. But I remember in an episode of Rambo, I think in Vietnam, they threw a body to the pigs.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if pigs will eat an alive body. Maybe if they're hungry enough, or if it's like a small kid. But if you just throw a corpse in there, they will eat that real fast.
Dude, I know cats will eat their owners ASAP.
Fuck.
Dogs will wait around until they get hungry before, like, if you have
cats will just go straight into eating them.
Cats will eat the body like ASAP, like as soon as they're hungry, within a day. Like a dog will wait until it's like life or death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then I think cats go for the eyes first.
Jesus.
I mean, this podcast is about bioterrorism, so
yeah. But
yeah, so
pigs are kind of a form of bioterrorism. Like that's
true.
Pigs were terrorizing the Native Americans.
I mean, invasive species could be considered bioterrorism.
Yeah, if you did it on purpose, because there's like a lot of countries where they're very strict that you can't bring certain things into that country, like any sort of like mushroom, like things that have spores or plants and stuff. Where it'd be funny if you just really hated a country, so you brought in all these invasive seeds.
I mean,
I guess it wouldn't be that funny, but yeah.
could you consider the dogs that the conquistadors brought that we spoke about on the last podcast? Is that bioterrorism?
Because they're I mean,
Is Hannibal crossing the Alps with elephants bioterrorism? Because it's technically biological and being used as a weapon.
biological warfare. Yeah, I guess that would fit the
Yeah.
that would fit. That would fit the description. I mean, mostly it pertains to bacteria and viruses. I think we should probably start all the way from like the first recorded examples of bioterrorism. And me and you, I don't know, we're probably thinking of the same example for like a really old one.
Yeah, Mongols?
Yes.
Sweet.
Yep.
So the Mongols were famous. The Mongol horde. We should do an episode on the Mongol horde.
Yes.
I mean, the Mongol horde is just terrifying. Just a bunch of dudes from the steppe, like herdsmen, ride horses, like some of the best horsemen of all time, just rolling up on agricultural societies and just destroying them.
I think, yeah, that might be like the worst time to be alive. I think at least in China, because like the Mongols eventually conquered all of China. And then I think for their first 50 to 100 years, they brought like relative peace to the world because they had conquered everyone. So like everyone was controlled by the Mongols. That would be kind of peaceful. But when the Mongols were doing all of the conquering, that would be a horrible time to be alive. And then at the end of the Mongols' reign is when the Black Plague spread. And that would be a horrible time to be alive. So I think at the beginning of the Mongols' conquest and at the end of the Mongols, those might be two of the worst times to ever be alive.
So shout out Tommy Smokes posed the question, how far back in history would you go to be the richest person on earth? And, but this is an interesting question because like, would you rather, it expects that history is linear in how good it is. So like, for example, being the richest person in 1920, would that be good? Like compared to today, like what would you trade your life for to go back and be the richest person in the world? So I was thinking like being the richest person in Rome, like since it's not linear, like being the richest person during the Black Death isn't better than being the richest person in ancient Rome or ancient Greece.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like Mansa Musa might have been the best person to be back then instead of the Black Death.
I mean, if you could go back and be like a Roman emperor, that would be. But then the Roman emperors, a lot of them didn't last too long. They would get a lot of assassinations or something like that.
Also, lead poisoning made them go crazy.
One thing I recently learned, you know how we were obviously worried about malaria when we went to Uganda.
Mm-hmm.
Malaria used to be just like super widespread that even in the UK, if you lived near a swamp, if you lived on the coast of the UK, there was a good chance you could get malaria. And so like a lot of the wealthy people, they started to move out of the cities and they would get these really nice mansions on the coast and then they would all end up dying.
What? How? Wait. How is there malaria in the UK before like bug spray?
Malaria? No, just because like during the summers in the UK, mosquitoes, which carry malaria, can survive.
What? The last British malaria outbreak? No, I thought it was only in tropical regions.
Yeah, so back in the day, in like the 1500s, 1600s, you could get malaria in the UK if you were near the coast, because wherever mosquitoes would thrive, they would there's a good chance they would be carrying malaria.
So apparently through the use of insecticide and draining a lot of the wetlands for farmland, that's how malaria went away. So, I mean, but that must mean that the U.S. should have malaria, or because it's not a new world.
They did have malaria for a long time. Like Virginia had a bunch of malaria. There wasn't as much up north, but in Virginia, Florida and stuff, it was really bad. And a lot of people kind of blame, obviously there was a lot of factors, but if it wasn't for malaria, people don't know if slavery would have become as rampant, because like malaria, I think it's native to Africa. That's where it's from. So I think more than like half of Africans just have a natural immunity, or when they do get malaria, it won't be lethal. But whereas like most Europeans, like there's a good chance they were going to die. So the thing is, like, there were a lot of people in the UK that like were willing to go over and work these plantations because they were indentured servants. So it's like they pretty much were slaves, but they had like an end in sight. They kind of had to work to pay off their debt. But when they started to import all these servants from Europe to work the tobacco farms, they were all just dying off from malaria. And they didn't like know this scientifically. Oh, Africans like are immune to malaria. But when they started to import them and work the fields, they're like, wait, these guys like aren't dying as fast as all the European workers.
I mean, it's crazy. So there used to be serious malaria in the River Thames. And when they drained the marshes, that they don't think is what eradicated malaria in total. They think that the like mosquitoes prefer to take blood from livestock. So the more livestock there was,
Okay.
they diverted bites. But they think that better housing, healthcare, sanitation, hygiene. So smaller rural populations as manual labor was replaced by machinery and better insulation of houses in winter. So they don't really know
Yeah.
why it all went away.
But that would make sense if the mosquitoes were normally biting the livestock and then they switched to humans when there like weren't as much.
I mean, I think it has a lot to do with sewer systems too. I think when there was open sewer systems, there was way more water to nest.
But it was also like, I don't even think we humans didn't really figure out what malaria was until, I don't know. Like, I think it was pretty, was it like the early 1900s or was it the 1800s? Because for a while they called it a type of fever. And I guess with malaria, you get like a really bad fever for a month and then it might go away for a couple weeks and then it will come back. And it just like keeps on coming back.
Yeah.
But like that would be the worst part when like you ask that question, like what time would you go back to be the richest person? Just like the fact that now when we get sick, we can figure out exactly what it is. Most of the time there's a cure. It would suck back then, even if you were the richest guy. If you got dysentery, you were going to shit your brains out and die.
And then they all got chlamydia, and like even if you were like had a huge harem, like you couldn't even be like fucking all the time because you might get one of those really bad ones that make your face fall off.
Syphilis, right?
Yeah, syphilis, that's the bad one.
And that's the like one disease. I know like Europeans and Africans brought smallpox to the New World, but the New World brought syphilis to Europe. Because it's it first like right after Columbus's first trip, when like some of his men were banging the locals, there was an outbreak of the first outbreak in Europe ever was in the Seville area that they were all from.
Jesus Christ. Hey honey, I'm home from my expedition.
And I got a brand new STD for you.
Yeah. I got coins and gold and cool things from the New World and something else for you. But getting back to the original use of bioweapons in the Mongol horde, basically the first recorded European recording of the Mongols using bioweapons was the Siege of Kaffa in 1346. So it's the most well-known instance in medieval biological warfare, which is now in Crimea, Ukraine. So
I think Crimea is part of Russia now.
No, it's Ukraine.
I thought that was 2014.
That was 2014. They annexed it.
Yeah, and I think Russia won that war.
Yeah, it is. It is Russia, but like like I don't know.
Yeah, all right. Okay.
Okay, it's in the man.
I'm shocked that like Russia wasn't like, okay, we're happy with Crimea. We don't need to start this like we don't have to start another war. Like just take Crimea and go home and be happy.
Well, I mean, did you hear the Tucker Carlson interview with Putin where Putin was just like, Ukraine is the Rus?
Yeah.
Like he like was like dating all the way back to the 800s. There was the Rus, and they were from everywhere that's Russia to Ukraine.
Yep.
And
Yeah, I did hear that.
Ukrainians, it's more that Putin wants more he thinks they're ethnic Russians. And this was a lot of the justification of Hitler, like going into the Sudetenland.
Yeah.
It's very similar. Because like if you like look at all the representatives, and it's probably a racist component too, because think of like a lot of the representatives of Russia in sports, like Dagestan, like Dmitry Bivol, like they're not ethnic. Like there's people within Russia who are like, they're not Russian.
Yeah.
They're other ethnic groups, but they're like, the population is shrinking so fast.
Yes, it is.
He's like Putin's like, oh, like these Ukrainians, I know they have their own national identity, but they're mistaken. They're really Russian, and we can grow the Russian population, white Russian population, by taking over Ukraine.
The first Russian Empire was called the Kievan Rus, and that was based in Kiev, which is the capital of Ukraine. So this was in Crimea, and the Mongols had besieged the city of Kaffa, and they then, like, a lot of their people started to die, like a lot of their troops started to die of the plague, and then they're like, ooh, I have an idea, and they catapulted the dead corpses of the people who had died from the plague into the city.
And the Genoese traders fleeing from Kaffa. Kaffa was a Genoese trading outpost. They think they brought the Black Death to Europe and started that pandemic.
Yeah.
But it's all the black rats, which is weird because black rats didn't really make it. Like the introduction of Norwegian brown rats, which are bigger. Usually, like if you're in the United States and you see a rat, it's usually a Norwegian brown rat, which are bigger, scarier. And if it wasn't for them, we'd probably be still getting outbreaks of the plague, because the black rats were coming from Asia, and they came with the Mongol horde, followed them. And that's how the plagues started to pop off, because the plague was popping off in Asia a lot earlier than Europe. And they think it's because of those black rats.
Yep. But now we have a cure. I guess now if you get the plague, it can just be cured with like antibiotics.
Yeah. It was a bacteria.
Yeah, it was a bacteria, but that's like 50% of Europe's population died.
Yeah. Yeah. So black rats, brown rats, and the plague. So brown rats don't carry the plague.
All right.
Which is kind of cool, because basically like these giant rats killed all these smaller rats, like as a invasive species of sorts. And because of that, we don't have the plague. So like shout out brown rats.
And so like New York City, all those are brown rats.
Yeah, they're huge. I saw one on the subway, dude. It was this big.
Yeah.
It was, and I'm not even counting the tail. It was this big.
You know what's wild is that I read Chicago has like maybe just as many rats, or they have like a ton of rats as well, but I just don't see them in Chicago. Where in New York, I would see them all the time.
That's because they put their trash in the alleys.
Oh, okay.
Not on the street. Because yeah. So I mean, black rats got outcompeted by brown rats, and we don't have as many plagues anymore.
Nope.
Huge for the program.
I think every once in a while there will be like a little outbreak of plague. I think in World War II, the Japanese bombed Chinese cities in like Manchuria with like plague bombs.
Yeah. Yeah, they dropped plague infected fleas from aircraft.
So it was just fleas. Holy shit.
Yeah, just fleas, which is even more fun.
So do you think it was a bunch of fleas in some sort of container when it hit the ground? It just broke open and all the fleas just
like a spider, like a spider nest.
Because that's what, it was not the rats carrying the plague; it was the fleas on the rats.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the difference in the hair between the black rat and the brown rat caused the difference. So in those plagues killed 400,000 Chinese civilians. So the Japanese had some crazy biological warfare. They were poisoning thousands of water wells in the run up to World War II and during World War II. They poisoned it with cholera and typhus, causing countless deaths. And they were using it to study how it like moved through areas. And I mean, Unit 731, they tested anthrax, cholera, the plague. I mean, the crazy medical experiments the Japanese were doing on the Chinese and all their prisoners of war is, I mean, ridiculous in Manchuria.
Yeah, and I was reading, what was the name of that place? Like Unit 751 or
Unit 731.
731. Like as the Russian troops were advancing into Manchuria, they just blew up the whole place. And so like most of the records of what they were doing there like are gone, but they still found like some proof. So we don't really even know the full extent of what was going on there.
I mean, that place north of Korea, it's north of North Korea, closer to Russia. Yeah. Is that where the Manchurian candidate comes from?
I would assume so, because the original Manchurian candidate was about someone brainwashed by the Chinese.
It's an infantry platoon captured by an elite Soviet commando unit. Yeah, they're taken to Manchuria and brainwashed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez. So it doesn't have to do with 731, but that sounds like a place where they would do a lot of weird shit.
Yeah.
I mean,
but then also, Manchuria also was the part of China that Japan like fully took over, and they turned it into like a client state. And they had just a puppet leader leading up to World War II and during it.
I mean, they took over Korea back in 1901, right? During the Sino-Russo War.
And the Japanese named Manchuria Manchukuo. Sounds a lot more Japanese.
So, the poisoning of wells was very common when conquering different lands. The Mongols did it all the time, but so did most medieval armies. When there was an advancing army, they'd throw a dead animal in the well. They'd throw dead bodies into the well because that would just cause sickness. So it's actually kind of, even though they didn't really know germ theory, even though they didn't really know how, it worked, they understood it poisoned the water.
I have another like ancient solid example of biowarfare that I have a personal connection to. So you guys have seen the video of me doing mad honey in Nepal.
Yeah.
And that has some sort of neurotoxin that some people enjoy the feeling. I did not. Maybe I took too much. But in the Mithridatic Wars, which is when Roman was trying to conquer the kingdom of Mithridates, and he was kind of based in where Turkey is now. That was his kingdom. I think he was like a Greek ruler. The Russians were chasing his army, and he knew a lot about all sorts of he knew about plant medicine, I guess. And so he left out a bunch of jars of mad honey in the path of the Roman army. And they've been marching for days. Obviously they're hungry and they're like, holy shit, look at all this honey we found. And so they just start pounding the honey, and kind of the same feeling that I had when I had probably 4 tablespoons. Like you almost feel a little paralyzed. Like I kind of just like, I fell over and was puking for 4 hours. That's what happened to all the Roman troops. And then Mithridates came back and massacred them all as they were high on mad honey.
Dude, that's wild. It's crazy that you did it. When I did my little teaspoon, I kind of felt giddy and weird. I was so terrified I was going to turn into that just from the 1 teaspoon, but it was vibes.
Yeah, no, I think if I had actually only taken 2 teaspoons, as I was told, I'd be fine. It's kind of like a body high, though. I don't know why they call it psychedelic honey, because it's not like you're seeing cool colors or shapes or hallucinating.
I mean, you're basically paralyzing yourself.
Yeah, but in small doses, it's just like you get these cool, like cooling waves rushing up and down your body, and that like felt kind of cool. But then if you take too much, yeah, it's like a neurotoxin, and you can't move too well.
Is every fun drug a neurotoxin? Is alcohol technically, it's a depressant, but does it sedate? Are all sedatives neurotoxins?
Alcohol is a toxin. Like, you pretty much are poisoning yourself when you drink alcohol. I don't know if it's like a neurotoxin.
I mean, that would make sense. Okay, yeah. So yeah, a lot of sedatives actually are neurotoxic.
Yeah.
And they're just in small doses. So nitrous oxide is a neurotoxin. But like they're not toxic at the levels that they give them to people.
Okay.
Huh.
I guess not all drugs are neurotoxins, though. I wonder if like shrooms are, because like with shrooms, you're kind of food poisoning yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was another kind of that was another cool example. I think those are the 2 very ancient examples that I have.
So I have some more Middle Age examples. So in 1155, Emperor Barbarossa allegedly poisoned wells around Tortona, Italy by throwing human corpses into them during a siege. In 1495, Spanish forces reportedly mixed wine with blood from lepers to sell to their French enemies in Naples.
Whoa.
That sucks.
Leper blood. Yeah, and I assume you would contract leprosy by drinking leper blood?
In 1650, Polish forces are said to have projected saliva from rabid dogs towards their enemies. So that's diabolical.
That's diabolical, but honestly, say if you're fighting an army, would you rather fight the army as is or the army with rabies? Because like an army with rabies would be vicious. They would like die after like a week, but that week would be tough.
I mean, the thing is, like, rabies takes a long time to kick in, to die.
Oh, yeah?
Like, it takes a year, dude. That's what's terrifying about rabies. This is why I got the rabies vaccine before Uganda. Because it takes, and this is terrible, but rabies can last up to 7 years in your system. So if you had a brush with a bat years ago, like, you're not out of the woods.
You're not out of the woods. Holy shit.
And that's terrifying. But I had a brush with a bat a couple of years ago. Didn't die. And I got the rabies vaccine. But there's still a chance. I got 2 more years left on it.
But do we have a cure? Or
no.
We just have like a vaccine to help you prevent from getting it. But once you have it, it's not really curable.
Like, it terrifies me. Like, that is one of the things you should definitely get vaccinated for. I don't know why they don't vaccinate us all at birth like dogs.
Treatment.
Terrifying.
Yeah. Once a rabies infection is established, there's no effective treatment. That is terrifying.
You can get it from petting stray cats, petting stray dogs. Did you pet any stray dogs in Uganda?
No, I didn't. And there was a lot of really cute dogs, but I refrained.
Also, another form of bioterrorism, bioweapons, was use of venomous animals. So in 184 BCE, the Carthaginian general Hannibal reportedly had his troops hurl venomous snakes and clay pots onto enemy ships. Mm-hmm. In 198, at the siege of Hatra, the Romans catapulted pots filled with scorpions into the city. So, I mean, they were just hurling the worst shit they could at each other.
It's kind of like the poop balloons that North Korea is sending to South Korea right now.
And I bet those aren't healthy poops.
No. But I feel like if you can't like get out of the way of a poop balloon, that's your problem. Like it doesn't seem like they're coming in really fast. If you're just walking down the street, you see a balloon in South Korea, just don't go investigate. Just get as far away as possible.
But what's in the poop? Ebola? It's probably Ebola.
Ebola poops? Damn.
I mean, they probably have an Ebola outbreak, and they're like, "Hey, let's take advantage of this and send this over to the South Koreans."
Yeah, because I mean, poop is very dangerous. Like if you get someone else's poop in your mouth, like there's a good chance you could die.
Yeah.
Why do people eat ass so much? If that could be lethal.
I don't know if it could be lethal. You definitely get sick.
Yeah, but no, I mean, poop can be lethal. Like, especially if you get poop in like a cut. Like
Oh God.
If you get
sepsis.
Yeah, if you get poop in a cut, like it can kill you.
I mean, well then what happened to 2 Girls, 1 Cup? How did they survive?
Oh my God. Yeah.
But also, there are people who give themselves fecal transplants when they had digestive issues.
Oh my God. It's right here. It says eating a mouthful of animal or human poop is generally considered to be non-toxic. Oh. What the fuck? I thought it was super dangerous.
Remember when PFT ate horse poop?
I was talking to him about that. I think horse poop is like the safest poop to eat.
Oh yeah, it's salad.
Okay, yeah.
It's grass. I mean, I bet cow poop. I mean, think about how many people do shrooms off cow poop.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know. So I think maybe I was thinking that if you get poop in a cut, it's
definitely bad.
Yeah.
It's definitely not good.
Something not good, but I thought, yeah, okay.
But a lot of people, when they have digestive issues, especially in foreign countries, when they have debilitating diarrhea, they need fecal transplants.
Yes.
To get the bacteria to deal with, whatever's going on in there. Like that's like why, we couldn't drink the water that wasn't bottled in Uganda because our gut biome wasn't built like their gut biome.
Yeah.
Roman forces also launched beehives as projectile weapons against their enemies. So
yeah. Although, I mean, we got attacked by wasps in Uganda, and like that didn't slow us down too much.
Yeah, but I mean, it definitely stuns. Definitely doesn't make it fun.
Yeah, if you're trying to fight while simultaneously getting stung by bees, that would suck. And also, we weren't being stung by the wasp; we were being bit.
Which was huge.
If we were being stung, we would have been out of commission for probably like 2 days.
Dude, thank God they didn't sting. Sneaky, so glad I did not get stung.
Yeah, no, that would be. I mean, that would work. I mean, imagine if someone just like walked into the Barstool office and then Gronkowski spiked like a wasp nest. That would cause absolute chaos.
Shout out Ranger Ready insect repellent. Only thing that saved me from getting stung. That is wild that the vape, like, don't vape in the African forest. They will come and attack you.
Yeah. I guess like they're just attracted to anything that's sugary or something like that. Like when I lived in Italy, the wasps were like, if you were just sipping an Aperol spritz or a Campari spritz, they would kind of like swarm. And like the crazy thing is they also like loved ham. So say if you had some charcuterie, if you left it out for 10 minutes, you would come back and there would be all these wasps and you could actually see them just eating chunks of ham.
Damn.
And they could take down like a couple slabs of salami in like a half hour. It's wild.
One use of biowarfare was, we got to acknowledge our country's history was by some colonists who were, fighting the Native Americans. And one I want to call out is Lord Jeffrey Amherst, huge smallpox blanket guy.
All right.
To kill the Indians. I actually think he's the worst perpetrator of this. He's got written letters about this. If you didn't know, there's this college in Massachusetts called Amherst. They recently had to denounce their former mascot, Lord Jeff. Honestly, the whole legacy of that school is tarnished by this exact some of these letters because they're very damning.
My grandfather went there.
I don't know how anyone could attend Amherst College. Inferior to any other small school in Massachusetts of any type.
I don't think like smallpox blankets weren't as widespread as you'd think because like at first when smallpox was running rampant, no one really like knew why. They just like happened to spread it accidentally. But yes, I did read, was it like the French and Indian War that we like handed out some smallpox blankets?
So he was big on it. They called him dead to rights. He was too smart for his own good. Everybody else like had no idea what it was, but Lord Amherst, he goes, in 1763 during the siege of Fort Pitt by Native American forces under Chief Pontiac, he sent a letter to Colonel Henry Bouquet on July 16, 1763, and he wrote, "Could it not be contrived to send the smallpox among the disaffected tribes of Indians? We must on this occasion use every stratagem in our power to reduce them." Pretty damning evidence. That's word for word, Lord Jeff.
He knew what he was doing.
Imagine being a Lord Jeff. Terrible.
Yeah, that's kind of a lame mascot.
Yeah.
But so have they had to change the name of their school mascot?
Yeah, they're now the Mammoths.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, but they do have a mammoth. That's kind of cool mascot.
Wait, that's kind of fucked up. So, because we used to play them in sports, I went to Tufts, and we were the Jumbos, and then like we were like the elephants. Our mascot's an elephant, and then they had to change their name, and they're like, "Oh, well, we're just going to be an even bigger elephant."
Yeah, with hair, and they go tusk up.
That's kind of, you couldn't have picked something else. Now we have two elephant teams in the same conference.
Yeah. Very unoriginal.
Yeah.
And you thought they were smart.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So he's literally one of the only people that like dead to rights wrote like, we should give him smallpox blankets. Like we talk like, yeah, it's like, it's not as widespread. Like it kind of happened by accident when trading sometimes, but it's like, no, he was like, let's send them the blankets.
Yeah, that's one case where like if I was going to that school, I wouldn't care that they were changing the mascot because like they were called like the Lord F's or the
Jeffs, which was also a copy off of the Eefs.
You guys are the Eefs. Okay, yes. Both of those mascots suck.
I know, but like they did it second. We were first.
All right,
we were the first. Like we're also the Purple Cows. This kind of sucks, but
yeah.
I went to Williams College, the rival of Amherst, who this guy got caught dead to rights, giving smallpox blankets out. Like undeniably, it's like, oh, like you know, like this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, that guy's guilty by historical and modern standards. Yep. So moving on, anthrax. Anthrax is just terrible.
It is terrible.
It's a fungus.
Interesting.
I always thought it was a chemical.
It sounds like a chemical. That's what I used to think too. Obviously, we heard a lot about it after September 11th, when some people were mailing anthrax envelopes, and I think 7 people ended up dying during that time when they were sending out. Like, did they ever find out who was doing it?
No, and it also might have been a rumor. Also, I was wrong. Anthrax is a bacteria. It's a spore. So it can affect humans in different ways depending on how they're exposed. So if like it hits the skin, usually like a raised bump that swells and scabs over. If inhaled, flu-like symptoms, body aches and sore throat. If it's ingested, you get a fever. And if it's injected, you're just really fucked. You can use doxycycline to get rid of it.
Why are you saying it was a rumor? I'm pretty sure 7 people were confirmed dead from those attacks back in 2001.
Wait, really?
Yeah, this was in 2001. How many? 5 deaths, 17 injured.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so it's confirmed, but I don't know if they figured out. Yeah, they still don't really know who did it.
Yeah, so they think they were mailed from Princeton, New Jersey, near the Princeton campus. Jesus Christ.
I mean, it would make sense if it was like a college professor, because he would know how to synthesize anthrax.
Okay, so the New York Post NBC News letter contained the following note: 9/11/01. This is next. Take penicillin now. Death to America, death to Israel. Allah is great. Huh. You cannot stop us. We have this anthrax. You die now. Are you afraid? Death to America, death to Israel. Allah is great. The letters were copies made by a copy machine, and the originals were never found. Each letter was trimmed to a slightly different size. The Senate letter uses punctuation, while the media letter does not. Huh.
Damn. Dude, I'm seeing that there's one lady who thinks it was the work of a rogue CIA agent.
I'm going to be honest, it would make sense if it was someone attending Princeton who may have had connections to the Saudi royal family.
Maybe.
7 people died? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I always thought there was another anthrax thing that was a rumor.
Yes, there was like another anthrax scare like years later that ended up being either like a rumor or it was just like there was a white powder in the bag. They found out it was not anthrax. Because I do remember hearing that. Oh, I mean, I think they did find someone or someone admitted to it, but then he committed suicide at the age of 62.
Bruce Edwards Ivins.
He committed suicide at 62, but the FBI, it was reported that the FBI was about to press charges against him. But the evidence was largely circumstantial, and the grand jury in Washington reported that it was not ready to issue an indictment.
So in 2008, they declared him the sole perpetrator. But, I mean, what was this guy's allegiance?
I guess it's kind of hard to 100% pin it on him because people was like, there was no proof that he had the skills to turn Xanax into an inhalable powder. So if he did do it, he probably had help.
Huh. Jesus. He had homicidal tendencies. But why did he hate America if he worked in a government facility?
I mean, Snowden kind of hates America now, and he was like really gung ho America for a while. So,
jeez. Okay, yeah. So, hidden text. The characters A and T were sometimes emboldened, and they had a hidden code. Oh, they think it had to do with hidden 3-letter. Okay, wait. So they had a nucleic acid, nucleic acids usually have 3-letter codes. So they think that he had a code TTT, AAT, TAT, and an apparent hidden message. So if you line those up into phenylene, asparagine, and tyrosine, if you put those together, that means, what would those mean? So I think it was a cure or something?
I don't know what that means, dude. All right.
What the fuck does that mean? So what would that 3? Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, he's the main suspect at the time. Or he still is the main suspect. I don't think we're going to be able to figure out if he was guilty or not on this podcast.
Yeah.
But look into him. Bruce Edwards Ivins.
Who knows if he did it? A bunch of cults were big on bioterrorism.
Yes.
The Rajneesh bioterror attack in 1984. So this cult deliberately contaminated salad bars in Oregon restaurants with salmonella, causing 751 cases of food poisoning. It was one of the first and largest bioterror attacks in the United States. It wasn't as deadly, but it could show like random people could just be poisoning shit with salmonella.
Yeah. And I think there's a really good Netflix documentary about these guys. What's it called? It's
the country.
Wild Wild Country.
Wild Wild Country.
That's about the same people, right?
The documentary now mocking of Wild Wild Country is hilarious.
What's it called?
Look it up. I think it's called like The Cult, but it's not Ben Stiller, but Owen Wilson as the cult leader. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Okay. I got to watch that. Yeah, no, that just shows that, I don't know, they probably had a cult of like a couple hundred people, and that if you have 200 people set on fucking shit up, like you can do a lot of damage.
Yeah. There was another cult called the Shinrikyos.
Yes, I did want to talk about them.
Yeah, Doomsday Cult attempted multiple bio attacks in Japan in the 90s. They unsuccessfully aerialized anthrax and botulinum toxins from a Tokyo building and tried to obtain Ebola.
Botulism. Yeah, which that's...
I botched that one.
Yeah, you botched.
I botched that one hard.
Botulism, but botulism is a bad one. I've definitely heard of that before.
They've also used sarin gas in 95, and they were just doing tons of shit.
Yeah.
What's your insight on these guys?
Well, I know the leader, I think, thought he was Jesus Christ, some sort of reincarnation, but they also adopted a lot of like Hindu and Buddhist beliefs, or a lot of Buddhist beliefs, which is crazy because like Buddhism is all about peace and love, but I guess it's all about how you interpret it. And they believed that the world was going to end. They had a lot of dates, like it was 1997, then it was 2007. They thought the world was going to end by the USA instigating a nuclear war, and that the only survivors of the war would be members of this cult. But I think their sarin attack on the Tokyo subway was like the worst because that killed maybe 17 people.
Jeez.
If you look it up, they just released the gas on a couple of the most popular subway lines. And my theory was that years before COVID, like anytime I was on the subway in Japan, maybe 80% of the people were wearing masks. And I wonder if it's just like people are still traumatized by those attacks, and that's why it became like so common to wear masks on the subway, or if they're just germaphobes.
I mean, I always saw people, especially Asian tourists in New York City, were rocking masks way before the pandemic. But I thought it was always for smog and pollution. But who knows? I mean, there's definitely credence to if you wear a mask, you don't get as many particles, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Fauci just said that he made it all up. Did you see that?
Yeah. I assume you're going to talk about that with Jack Mac.
Yeah, I'm saving that one for a Jack Mac conversation. We're planning. He has a lot to do, but
okay.
We might do revisionist history of what we now know.
Okay.
I think that might be a huge episode.
So what he came out and said that he was like making up the 6 feet apart thing, or what
yeah. So he basically says that a lot of the stuff he said was trying to basically do what he thought was right in the moment.
Okay.
And he thought that all that stuff would help.
Yeah.
But it was sort of just like him making like guesses of what would work.
Yeah. Because I guess, I mean, they probably didn't have enough time to actually test out a lot of these theories, but it was wild. You would just like hear something new every week. Remember at first they were saying that COVID could survive on surfaces for like 2 weeks. I was like, what the fuck? And that ended up not being the case at all. So sarin though, let's make a distinction. Sarin is chemical warfare and not bio warfare because that was just like a poisonous chemical. But they launched numerous attacks. They were terrorizing Japan for a while.
I mean, how did they get away with this for so long?
I think the head leaders kind of claimed like we didn't know about these attacks, like we didn't officially sanction these attacks. It was just done by rogue members of the cult. So maybe that's how they like avoided execution for a while.
So they actually are now big in Russia.
Really?
So yeah, the group operates 26 facilities in 17 prefectures, which are like states in Japan. And a lot of people protest them all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But they've gone into Russia. There was a split in 2007, a schism, and one sect went to Moscow to do an operation. The other stayed in Japan.
Yep.
And they have over 1,000 members still.
Okay.
How is this not just illegal? Because they're recruiting on college campuses.
Yeah.
They did a car attack in 2019.
I guess back when they first started, most of their recruits were from like Japan's elite universities, and it was dubbed like the religion for the elite. And I think he was inspired by Isaac Asimov's Foundation trilogy. It's like those are famous sci-fi books because that's about those books are about an elite group of spiritually evolved scientists forced to go underground during an age of barbarism to prepare themselves for the moment when they will emerge to rebuild civilization. And that's kind of what they thought. They thought the world was going to end by nuclear war, and then they would emerge and rebuild society.
Yeah, they cracked down on them in 2016. Russia made it illegal. Montenegro had a bunch.
Montenegro is, first off, very beautiful country, but it's pretty far. I just learned they do the most cocaine, or they're in the top 5 for countries that do the most cocaine. There's tons of Russian mafia members there. I think they're pretty loyal to Russia. And yeah, I think those are all my fun facts of Montenegro. Very beautiful.
Serbs.
They do a lot. Yeah.
Serbs.
They're also tight with Serbia, I think.
Well, the Serbs smuggle the most cocaine into Europe.
Yeah.
From what I hear.
What about...
They control the cocaine game.
Albanians too? I think...
They beef.
Albanians control the cigarette trade in Europe, maybe.
Because they can't get into the coke trade.
Yeah.
But hearing Balkans discourse amongst Balkans in comment threads is one of the funniest things ever.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Like, Kosovo, always Albany. Like,
oh, yeah.
Croatia must, like, the way they hate each other so much, but yet are exactly the same is, like,
yes,
is unfortunate, but also pretty funny at the same time.
Kosovo and Albania are tight, kind of, but then Kosovo and Serbia hate each other.
And Albania thinks Kosovo should be Albania.
And Serbia thinks that Kosovo should be Serbia.
So they're like, we're just going to make it its own state.
Yeah. I
think we just solved that's a pretty decent.
I think it works out. Yeah. And it all comes down to like Albania always had a pretty large Muslim population, and then Serbia was very Orthodox Christian. But
the Serbians consider themselves Russians and Slavs in connection.
They are Slavs. So there were 2 branches of Slavs when they made their way into Europe. There were the Northern Slavs and the Southern Slavs. And Albanians might be their own type of people, but yeah, like Serbia, Croatia, Slovenia, Bulgaria, Romania, I think all those countries are Slavs.
And then, I mean, Ottoman Empire takes over.
Yeah.
That whole area. That's why Albania's got a good Muslim population. But really, they're all doing Ancestry.com nowadays and realizing they're all Greek.
Really?
Yeah, like that. I was like going through this Twitter thread of just like Balkans discourse, and it's like, just got my grandfather ancestry.com to show how Albanian he is. He came up 80% Greek. He's in shambles. It must be a Serbian psyop. And like, and also Turkey is coming up Greek. And they're like, what? I'm a Turk.
There was like, after World War I, there was a crazy population transfer because tons of Greeks used to live in Turkey and tons of Turkish people lived in Greece. And then they fought a war. Turkey kind of won that war. And then so Turkey expelled every Greek person in Turkey. And then Greece did the same with any Turkish people in Greece. And there was like a swap of like 700,000 people.
But didn't the Ottomans lose?
The Ottomans lost. That's how Greece became its own country. But then after World War I, Greece took over parts of Turkey. And then Greece was going to control like the lower kind of left. What would that be? The
lower left. So like Rhodes.
It was all based around the city of Smyrna, if you can see it.
I'm looking at it right now. Yeah, that would be Rhodes.
And so, Rhodes is an island, but then look at like Greek occupation of Turkey after World War I. And that was just going to become part of Greece. And like Greece was pumped about it because they were like, this will be the first time we've had territory on the Turkey Peninsula since the Ottomans.
Asia Minor,
Anatolia, since the Ottomans conquered Constantinople. But then Ataturk, who was, he's probably the most famous Turkish person of all time. He was able to fight them back, and Greece got no support. Like Greece, they kept on asking the UK and the US for help and support, and then they were too burnt out from World War I. They were like, we're not going to get involved. You're on your own. And so, for a while, if you could see this, they controlled like all that whole part of Turkey.
Did they have Constantinople?
Constantinople was controlled by like an international committee.
Okay, that makes more sense.
For a bit, but then Ataturk kind of won the war against Greece, and then he was able to negotiate to get Istanbul back in control, and that he's the one who founded the modern country of Turkey.
Yeah, the Turkish national identity.
Yes.
I mean, after the breakup of the Ottoman Empire, I mean, it's crazy how nationalism is actually so modern.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you think in World War I, that was the Austro-Hungarian Empire, which had like 20 different ethnicities. And then there was the Ottoman Empire, which had a bunch of different ethnicities too.
I mean, that was like, I watched this whole thing about how war became democratized. And basically back in the day, only the lords would go to battle. There'd be a select few warrior class that was part of the ruling elite. And they would just kill each other and no one else would really be involved. And then, if they took over another castle, like the peasants were left alone because they were important. Why would you kill a bunch of these peasants who can feed you and you can tax and all these things? Like you were like, it was between you and the other king. And then that sort of all changed once Napoleon came around.
Yeah.
And the French Revolution, that was the first national identity. And that's when the army was like, anyone can be in the army. It's all meritocracy.
Yeah.
And that's literally why Napoleon was so good. He was just like, any man can become a general. If you're good at your job, you can move up the ranks after the French Revolution. Like, it's not about nobility.
Yeah.
And that's when like armies became a little more like democratized in that like people are fighting people. Like the peasants are no longer getting left alone.
Yeah.
If they're going into a city, everyone's involved.
Yeah. And that's when it became, you weren't just fighting for some random king who taxes the shit out of you. You were fighting for your own country. So they probably, that's why Napoleon's army did so well. Like they were fighting with a little more pride.
And also like they knew the peasants wouldn't fight for them because they were just taxing the shit out of them before.
Yeah.
So like now that it was like all the people were involved, but that also means that there was greater atrocity.
Yeah. When it was just knights versus knights, then it'd be like we eventually got to the point of total war where it's like everyone is fighting everyone.
So it's like, which system is better? Like, should we go back to just like Hunter Biden fighting for America? Like, might be a good use of his time.
Yeah, we should just make like all of the Ivy League schools training grounds for our elite troops, and they're like the only ones who actually have to fight.
Or not even the Ivy League schools, just like politicians.
Politicians and their children.
Baron Trump.
Yes, if like the wars were only fought by politicians' kids, then there'd be a lot less wars.
Yeah, I mean, hey, let's get Baron Trump on horseback, bring back swords. I think he'd be pretty formidable.
He would be. I'd be worried though, because then he would probably stage a coup after like winning the war for us and be like, no, I'm now king of America.
Freaking Hunter Biden all coked up going into battle.
Berserker mode.
Coked up. That would be pretty wild. Like we would have a pretty decent front. Netanyahu's son is in like foreign university, so he wouldn't be included. Putin, does Putin got a son?
Netanyahu went to high school in Philly. He's a Philly guy. He's probably an Eagles fan. I don't know. Yeah, I think he grew up, maybe he was born in Israel, but then like because his dad took a job in the US, he went to high school in Philly and then either moved back to Israel like in college or after college.
So apparently Putin has a son. His name's Victor Putin and he plays soccer.
Vicky Poot?
I don't know if Victor Putin is real or he's just another dude with the last name Putin.
I feel like I've heard of Putin having a daughter.
Albert Putin. Yeah, I mean, I bet he has kids. He just doesn't talk to them. And also, I think this player's from Ukraine. That would suck having the last name Putin in Ukraine.
Oh, yeah. So, I guess he has children, but he keeps them secret.
Good move.
Oh, but no, I think he only has 2 adult daughters. Oh, but Putin is grooming secret son 9 to be his successor with his daughters. Oh my God. That's the Sun. The Sun is not a reliable publication. Oh, Newsweek seems to think he has one too.
I mean, if Putin's like incubating a secret son, like that's fucking science fiction. That's scary as fuck.
It's going to be Putin's secret son versus Baron Trump. And like, actually, I don't know.
That is
Trump's kind of tight with Putin.
Like that would be ridiculous if we ended up with a World War I type royals versus royals, and we have Putin Jr. versus Baron Trump.
Baron Trump apparently is starting to get involved in politics. Like, I guess I was listening to Trump, and he was like, "Baron always tells me, oh, I think you should do this or you should do that." Like, he's trying to give him political advice.
Dude, we had Chase Winovich on the show. I guess it's a week ago if this is airing next Monday, and he was in a Clash of Clans clan with Baron.
That's insane.
So the guy's studying military strategy.
Holy shit.
Through Clash of Clans. But the crazy conspiracy about Nikola Tesla, his apartment got investigated by Donald Trump's uncle, and he may have found time traveling technology from Nikola Tesla's readings and writings. And then there's this book from 1830 about the adventures of Baron Trump.
Yeah.
Spelt exactly the same. Like, that's a very weird coincidence. So like it's hypothetical, and it's about how Baron Trump goes time traveling.
Yeah. Although maybe that's why Trump named his son Baron. Cause like he read those books as a kid.
A very obscure, book from France.
Yeah,
it's French.
Yeah, it's a French book.
I mean, you got to make some considerations. But it would be wild if if the Trump family had some, because remember Back to the Future, Biff, right?
Yes.
They based him off Donald Trump.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah.
They based it.
Well,
like
there's also the movie Idiocracy where Trump is the president.
Oh my God. I mean, I don't know. Just something to think about. Back to bioweapons.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if Trump's the actual president in that. I think he is. It's a comedy movie about a dystopia in the future, and I think they're like, and Donald Trump is now president.
So another bioweapon which was accidentally released was the Sverdlovsk anthrax outbreak in 1979. In 1979, accidental release of anthrax spores from a Soviet military facility in Sverdlovsk, now Yekaterinburg, Russia, caused an outbreak that killed at least 66 people. The Soviet government initially denied the incident, but later acknowledged it was caused by their biological weapons program in violation of the Biological Weapons Convention. So, anthrax, serious problem.
Yeah. And I think like in World War II, like the militaries on both sides had invented anthrax bombs. I don't know if they ended up using them a lot, but we were all doing a lot of research on biological weapons back in the day. But
Germans invented mustard gas. The dude who invented mustard gas, wife, killed herself as soon as she found out what it did and how it was going to be implemented.
It is crazy. Like that shit must have been so bad that obviously the Nazis used gas in World War II, but they didn't really use it on the battlefields, right? Like I think people were so scarred from World War I that both sides, at least in Europe, didn't use it while fighting. Yeah, no, I like it's pretty like people must have been so scarred that I mean, maybe Japan like used it some, but in all the battles fought in Europe in World War II, they weren't really using it.
That is actually interesting. But Britain. So, have you ever looked into how the royal family had a contingency plan to escape England to the Nazis?
Yeah, I think I heard they were going to retreat to Canada. Was that the plan?
Is that just in Peaky Blinders?
No, I think they had a plan. I don't know if it like they ever got really close to using it, but they definitely had like a plan in place.
Oh, yeah. So if invading German forces had reached the Midlands, the royal family would have taken to Liverpool and evacuated by sea to Canada. I think that was World War One that they were making side deals with their cousins.
Yeah.
Which is also just wild.
Well, there was was it World War II where the king's brother was a Nazi sympathizer and he was always trying to work out a deal between them?
Yeah. So
the craziest World War II story is one of Hitler's closest confidants. He kind of went rogue. He was like, I'm going to save the day. He hopped in a plane, flew to Scotland, landed in a cow field. And then he was like, I'm here to work out terms to end the war and negotiate peace. But he didn't even tell Hitler he was going. So when Hitler found out that that guy had just taken off on a plane, he was like, what the fuck? No, I'm not trying to make peace. We're just going to win the war straight up.
Jesus.
But he made it. Yeah, he made it there. And then some random Scottish police found him. And then they had to call Churchill and be like, hey, we have a guy who claims he's best friends of Hitler up in Scotland. And I think he wants to talk to you.
I mean, how would you know? How would you know back then if he was who he said he was?
He probably had some papers. Yeah, I think it was Rudolf Hess. In 1941, Hess flew to Scotland hoping to make peace between Germany and Britain.
Oh.
He was immediately arrested and imprisoned.
Oh my God. Is that the guy from Hess, Hess trucks?
I think there's a lot of Hesses in Germany. But
Like, did he do Hess gasoline? Whatever happened to Hess?
he lived until the age of 93. But so he was kind of just kept in a prison in the UK for the whole war.
Huh.
He did try to kill himself. Where did he? All right. He had to go on trial at the Nuremberg trials after World War One.
Okay, so Leon Hess.
This guy was Rudolf Hess.
Oh wait, something about Hitler. Nope, no Hitler. Yeah.
Oh.
So, he was one of the original owners of the New York Jets. That makes sense.
Oh yeah, you're looking at the guy from Hess Trucks. No.
Yeah.
This Hess I'm talking about spent the rest of his life in prison.
Damn. Crazy.
I just remember reading that Hitler was pissed when he found out the guy had taken a plane and gone rogue to Scotland.
Going rogue to Scotland. Jeez. So, do we have any other bioweapons? We want to talk about farting on your bro while he's sleeping. Low-key a bioweapon.
They can get pink eye.
Yeah. Have you ever done that?
I've farted on people. I don't think I've ever farted. I probably have at some point, but
in a mosquito net.
Oh yeah. I don't think I was close enough to give you pink eye then.
Hey, never know.
Who knows? Yeah. I forgot about that. No, I mean, there's a lot more cases of chemical warfare that we could talk about, but we could save that for another day, as I do have to go kind of soon.
Yeah. I think German troops used prostitutes to spread STDs during World War II as well.
All right.
And the United States, tried to use prostitutes to assassinate. Well, during World War II, the U.S. Office of Strategic Services developed a plan for Chinese prostitutes to assassinate high-ranking Japanese officers with whom they sometimes consorted and occupied Chinese citizens. And they would do this with gelatin capsules of botulinum toxin.
Oh yeah, the very last thing I want to talk about is there's been a lot of talk about a bed bug outbreak in Paris right before the Olympics. And then at one point people found like a post on 4chan from like 3 years ago about like some guy was like, yeah, I'm going to unleash bed bugs at the Olympics to ruin the event. I talked to this German guy I know, and he was saying he's saying it's all a Russian psyop. So like it started off as a rumor, and then Russian bots on social media just tried to make it as widespread as possible. Because obviously, I don't even think they're allowed to participate in this Olympics. Like, I think like they are trying to ruin it. But from what I've heard from like people on the ground in France, that like the bed bug outbreak isn't. It's like way more hyped up, and it's made to seem like more of a problem than it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I did look at some statistics. I just pulled up the blog I wrote on it about a couple months ago. So in 2022, the French Health and Safety Agency reported that more than 1 in 10 French households had been infested with bed bugs, which was a 65% increase from the previous year. This may have been due to the hot winter they had in the high density of housing. So there may have been a spike that they've now curtailed, but it may have been sourced to one cinema, but I think it was increased and now is being hijacked. There was actual science behind it, and that post was ridiculous, but may have been like it was posted on France's version of 4chan, and basically this guy's saying that he like collected tons of bed bugs and bred them and released them all across Paris and dropped them everywhere. That may have just been a reaction to the infestation from the warm summer. And he's like, oh yeah, I planted all these bed bugs. Like I'm the super villain who did this, but also propagated by Russian propaganda.
Yep.
It would be like, what's something that's impact has impacted America recently. Like Berkshire Hathaway's plunge recently, where it went down to $100.
Yeah.
From like several $1,000s. Like I could be like, oh yeah, I did that.
Wait,
I hacked it.
did that happen?
Yeah, it for like 2 minutes went all the way down in a glitch.
Oh, okay. But now it's back up.
Now it's back up.
I started investing in that like a year ago. All right.
Like go check it. You're like, if you check your I don't know, your balance, it might have gone down like thousands of dollars in like for 1 minute.
I still own Penn. I think Penn just took another hit. I'm down so bad on Penn.
Dude,
I keep on thinking, I'm like, well, I don't need
dump it at the end of the year and write it off on your taxes.
But I'm always thinking that if I wait till the end of the year, it will go up a little bit, so I don't like have as large a loss. But yeah, we're getting the donation from all the shirts sold ready. We're going to be able to ship a lot of equipment, at least enough to kind of like field 2 football teams in Africa. So shout out everyone who bought a shirt. And yeah, that's really all I got for now. We will keep you updated on the shipment. The only other example I see that we could talk really briefly on is the Mau Mau tribe in Kenya. They used a plant toxin to poison livestock to get back at the British, I guess.
Wow. Also poison dart frogs.
Oh shit. Yeah, I guess that is biological warfare.
Fun fact, poison dart frogs get their poison from the spiders that they eat. And so you can keep them in captivity, and as long as you're not feeding them the spiders and the poison animals that they eat, you can handle them and it's fine.
Oh, and that's why I was talking about poop in your cut, because I think back in the day, a lot of people would like rub poop on their swords and stuff, because then like, if they cut someone, it would be a lot more lethal.
That would suck to carry around a poopy sword, though.
Maybe they would do it right before battle. Just do a quick little smear and then charge.
Or maybe, I think it was just arrows.
Poop. Oh, to get hit with a poop arrow? Fuck.
Oh, God. Like just getting hit and then you're like, oh. And then you're like, oh. Yeah. Smell.
I have to run now.
Yes, Donnie, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you guys for listening. This will probably be coming out next Monday, the 10th. Tune in to the Barstool basketball game between Kirk Minahan's team and the Barstool New York's team because they have threatened bodily harm. And if the ref doesn't protect me, I'm going to have to protect myself. So it's going to get interesting.
Start a fight in that game.
I'm not going to start a fight. I'm just going to protect myself because they're talking about hacking people. And like, if I'm just getting killed for no reason, like, and the ref's not calling shit and I'm just getting hacked, like I'm going to have to protect myself. Bodily harm, self-defense, stand your ground laws. It's in Connecticut. They have different laws.
Okay.
I looked them up.
Holy shit. That game's going to get ugly.
It's going to get so ugly because they suck and they're just going to try to like hurt us.
But they don't have like large guys that can hurt you. Maybe
exactly. So they're just going to like foul unnecessarily and be like, oh, like that's the only way we can stop you type thing. But thank you guys. Like and subscribe. Donnie, we're a month into this podcast. This is the 14th episode that we're recording on June 4th. So a month and a day.
All right.
What do you think about it before you leave?
I think you're chugging along. You're pumping out a lot of content. You've had some cool guests. So
I have this list, and actually let me grab it before you leave. By June 1st, 5 podcasts published, 5 interviews done, 10 interviews lined up, and kind of shattered that.
All right, let's go.
So just wanted to share that.
Writing down your goals is helpful.
Let's go, crackheads. Write down your goals. Thank you, crackheads. Thank you, crack maidens. Please subscribe, like, repost, do all those things. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Donnie. And let's have a great week this week.
Peace out.